Hi, and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. Well, this video is going to be in two parts. I'm going to post one part here on this channel, and I'm going to post the other part over on my other channel, OTK Garden and Prep. So, what is this video about? This is so very different than the kind of video I normally make, but you will see why it makes sense as I go on. I am a longtime tech nerd. I fully admit it, and I embrace it. I happen to love cooking old school recipes, and I happen to love like all things old school, traditional skills and all of that. But that doesn't mean I don't also embrace new things. I've been on the internet since it came out. I've been developing websites since the mid to late 90s, around the time I got out of college. This has been my world for a very long time. There are a lot of people today who have maybe heard of AI and they've heard of ChatGPT, but they're intimidated by it and they don't want to go near it. They're afraid of it. They think it's going to spy on everybody. They think it's going to, be some monstrous thing. But I am here to tell you, people worried about these same kinds of things when the internet came out. Granted, there are some very unique things to be concerned about with AI, but I'm not going to delve into those. I'm going to leave that to the really true AI pioneers and those high-tech people to discuss all that. We're not going to cover that here today. What I want to show you in this video is, first of all, what kind of AI is available for you and how you can use it to make a big difference in your life in a whole lot of different ways. You might think it's just for tech nerds. You might think it's just for those of us who work on computers every day. For me, like I say, I'm a website developer, but you might think it's for people in the tech world, but it's not just for people who are in the tech world. You can look at something like ChatGPT as your personal assistant for just about everything. Now, that doesn't mean, for me, I'm not going to be giving it access to my personal life at all. I'm not giving, there are plugins for ChatGPT. You can think of a plugin sort of like an app on your phone. If you have a smartphone, then you know what the apps are on your phone. Well, there are plugins for ChatGPT and other language learning programs that will let you do more things. I don't want to give ChatGPT access to my personal life, so I'm not doing that. But that doesn't mean I can't ask it all kinds of questions and use it to generate content for me in all kinds of ways. It is a huge time saver. It's conversational. That's the whole point of a learning language model. It's constantly learning how to have conversations with humans and to interact with us. And then if we ask it to generate content, it will, about anything we ask. Depending on what version of ChatGPT you have, it will either be limited as to what it has been trained on since its training cutoff, which as of right now in June 2023, ChatGPT 4 has only been trained up to September 2021. Anything that happened after that date, it doesn't know anything about. It doesn't know anything about current events or anything like that. But there is an option in the paid version of ChatGPT that will be able to go out on the internet. It uses Bing as the search engine, and it can find all kinds of things for you on the internet. There are other AI platforms that you can also use. Google has its own version called Bard, bard.google.com. I'm not as big of a fan of that one. That one's totally free, and it is more up to date, but it's buggy. And the way that it communicates is just not as nice. They've not been training it as long. It's just not as comfortable having sort of a conversation with Bard as it is with ChatGPT. I do use the paid version of ChatGPT. It's $20 a month. There's no affiliate account that I'm familiar with, so it's not like I'm making any money by telling you this, but I highly recommend getting ChatGPT paid version for $20 a month because it's so far and away better than the free version. You won't believe it. But I'm going to show you some things that you can do just in your day-to-day life to make use of ChatGPT. Things, and some of them you might wonder, well, why can't I just use Google for that? Well, some of them you can, but the thing is, you can save a lot of time using ChatGPT to do some of these things. Not to mention, it's been trained on a huge data set. So you can get really, really detailed, nuanced instructions, and then you can go back and forth with it and ask it, more questions and drill down on exactly what you want when you are inquiring about something. So I'm going to use the screen share option. I'm recording this in Zoom, so I'm going to use the screen share option, and I'm going to share my computer screen, and I'm going to take you through some typical uses for ChatGPT. My goal is to help people not be afraid of this. I remember when the internet came out. I will say that I wasn't, let's see. I will say that I wasn't on the internet in the very first couple of years, because it was only for just really rich people. But I was in college in the mid 90s. And at that point, I was definitely on the internet. I went to the computer labs at NC State, and that's where I got on the internet for the first time, and started learning how to search for things. Search engines were totally different back then. Back then, if you wanted to get on the internet, most people didn't have dial-up internet service. We had to have a modem at home. And then with that modem, you might sometimes dial right into another computer. If I wanted to dial into my NC State internet, I would be doing what's called telnet. I'm not going to take you down a trip on memory lane for that. But the point is, the early days of the internet, a lot of people were freaked out about it. They thought it was going to be awful. Other people thought it was going to be wonderful. But ultimately, we all see how that turned out. We're all on the internet today. It's a part of our lives in every way you can imagine. And I think that AI is going to be like that. And so the earlier you learn and you start making use of it, the more savvy you're going to be, the more easily you're going to be able to adapt to whatever changes might come with AI. So I have you now in my ChatGPT screen. Now, over here on the left, you'll see I've got a lot of conversations, and it actually saves any dialogues that I have with it. If I don't want it to, there's a setting in ChatGPT that lets me tell it, don't save our conversations. I don't want you saving our conversations. But why would I want to do that? I like to go back and look at previous conversations. I use it a lot for my work. Sometimes if I'm developing a website, I will use ChatGPT to help me generate some content just to fill in certain areas of websites until my clients can take a look at them and then see what content they'd rather have in place. It's really helpful for that. But then I use it for a lot of times things at home. Some good examples of ways that you can use ChatGPT are, let's look at kitchen things, right? Cooking and things like that. I recently did a video on how to make sandwich bread so that you can actually use it for sandwich bread. And I had a comment from someone who was asking about why her bread crumbles and it can be dry. She wasn't sure what she was doing wrong, but she was wanting to know tips. And I was thinking, I remember having that problem before, but I don't even remember what I did to fix it. So I asked ChatGPT the question. I said, I'm not sure what to tell her because this is an issue I typically have now. I've had dried crumbly bread in the past, but this is, I think it's probably because of this or that. And it came back and gave several reasons why somebody might have dry and crumbly bread. So I was able to give her these, some of these suggestions, knowing what my own experience was. I really know that in my own experience, it was probably because there was too much flour, not enough kneading and things like that. So once I gave her those tips, it's not that I didn't know, but this is like really expert advice. So it was sort of confirming what my experience had been, but it was also adding more to it so I could provide that to her. And since then, she's been able to go on and she's successfully made bread and she's enjoyed it. And that's I love that. This is something that is just such a great thing. Other things you can use it for is if you have a recipe that you want to, say, multiply for multiple servings more than what the recipe has, or reduce it. Let's say it's a recipe for a family of 4, but let's say it's just you and you want to know how you can make the same recipe for just you without wasting a bunch of ingredients. You can put the recipe in on ChatGPT and it will give you a suggestion of how you can reduce it. If you want to do a lower calorie version of a recipe, you can do that. So I'm going to come here and do a new chat. It defaults to 3.5, which is the one that everybody's using if they're on the free version. I'm going to go to 4 because that's the one I love. I don't need to use the the browse with Bing right now. That's not necessary for what I'm going to show you, but the browse with Bing is an option for people with the paid version. That's the one that lets it go out on the internet and look for things. But instead, I'm just going to say, let me think of a recipe. I would like a good recipe for making the cake for strawberry shortcake. Now, I have tons of recipes for cake for strawberry shortcake. I'm just using this as an example to show you how it works. I'm just going to hit that, and that's all I've said. I would like a good recipe for making the cake for strawberry shortcake. It takes a second or two. Sure, here's a simple recipe for a fluffy biscuit style cake, perfect for strawberry shortcake. So it gives me the recipe. If I'm going to make cake for strawberry shortcake, I don't want it to be a biscuit style, and I'm going to tell it so. So now that it's given me the recipe, and I could stop it if I want, but I'm going to let it go ahead and finish. But see, you see how it's giving me the ingredients. It says for the shortcake, for the topping, and then down here are the instructions. It's even telling how to serve it. Okay, it says not to overwork the dough. That's great. Okay, but so here's where I'm going to refine things. I'm going to say, I'm not a fan of biscuit style shortcake. I'm really looking for something more like a pound cake or an angel food cake or the kinds of dessert shells they sell in the grocery store. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, when we have strawberry shortcake, a lot of times we just get those dessert shells. Otherwise, I'm just going to be making like a basic pound cake. All right. See, so it says, got it. If you prefer a cake base for your strawberry shortcake, an angel food cake or a pound cake would be indeed a great choice. I'll provide a simple recipe for each. So now it's giving me a recipe for angel food cake. And then it's going to go ahead and give me a recipe for pound cake. But then I'm going to show you a really cool thing that I'll be able to do as I go forward with this. I'm telling you, this could be like the person who loves cooking at home. It could just be like your personal little kitchen assistant. Okay. So I'm going to let it finish. Let's see. And then I'm going to see what happens here. I'm going to say the pound cake recipe sounds great, but I only have 3 eggs. Would I need to substitute something for the 4th? So it'll give me a 3/4 size pound cake. That's one option. And another one is for each egg that the recipe requires, I could substitute any of the following: half of a medium banana, or a 1/4 cup of unsweetened applesauce, or a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice, plus 1 teaspoon of baking powder. It says, given that a pound cake has a rich and dense texture, it might be best to modify the recipe or use the vinegar, lemon juice, and baking powder substitution to maintain the texture and rise of the cake. If you use fruit purees like banana or applesauce, your cake may come out denser and moister than typical pound cake. So you see how that works with something like a baking recipe. Now, what if I say, and I've done this before, but again, I'm just doing a demonstration. I'm asking things as though I'm a complete novice so that I can get it to give me whatever is the best advice it can in the simplest terms. I have some thick New York strip steaks that I like to cook in my kitchen. Will the oven or the stovetop in a cast iron skillet give me the best result? So it's telling me both the oven and stovetop in a cast iron skillet can yield excellent results. However, the best approach would typically involve using both methods in a technique called reverse searing. And now it's going on to explain to me how to reverse sear a steak. All right. I'm not using ChatGPT for my advice on how to cook steaks. Personally, I just cook them in a skillet on my stovetop, and it's perfect. Perfect for us. It's exactly what we need. But the point is, this is going to give you good advice. It's giving me good advice for different things that I've never made before, which is kind of neat. But it's not just about recipes. All right, let's say that you have, and I'll be talking more extensively about this kind of thing in the video that I'm going to do for my other channel, OTK Garden and Prep. I'll be doing a part 2 to this video, and I'll be posting it over there in a few days. But one of the things you can also use ChatGPT for is gardening advice. So if I come over here and I start a new chat, and I'm going to say ChatGPT 4, okay, so let's say I have some problem that I've noticed with one of my plants in my garden. Yes, I could Google it. Yes, you obviously can Google it. But one cool thing that you can do with ChatGPT is you can get really specific about where you live for specific advice about how to handle certain things. So let's say I tell it, I live on the coast of NC in zone 8B, and I have a healthy vegetable garden right now in June of 2023. Now, ChatGPT doesn't know today's date, so you have to tell it if you're doing something in a certain time of year, what today's date is. All right. So I'm telling it where I live roughly, just that I live on the coast of North Carolina in zone 8B, and that I have a healthy vegetable garden right now in June of 2023. All right. So let's say I want to ask it about some string beans that I planted too close. I've done this, and I mean, I was trying to follow the guidelines in square foot gardening. Those guidelines, they don't always work for me, y'all. I don't know about you, but they don't always work for me. So I'm going to say I planted some bush beans, and they are thriving, but I think I planted them too close together, and they are getting tangled. What can you recommend? All right, so it's giving me some specific advice about, different things that I can do to deal with my bush beans being too close together, and crowding and things like that. If I wanted to get into something more specific about where I live and the kind of soil that I have, I could ask about that. So I could ask, as of now, June 16th, 2023, what vegetables and fruits can I still start from seed in my garden? This is a great question. In zone 8B, the summer heat will be setting in soon, but there are still a number of vegetables and fruits you can plant from seed in mid-June. It mentions okra, southern peas or cowpeas, sweet potatoes, melons, cucumbers, summer squash, and zucchini. So it's going to go ahead and give me, and any of you who garden, you already know the answers to these things, but this is a fantastic thing for new gardeners. But then we can also talk about the kinds of things that sometimes plague our plants in certain areas. And I'm going to ask a question about that in just a minute. I've noticed some of my zinnias have a white film on the leaves. What is that, and what should I do about it? Yeah. So it's telling me it's likely powdery mildew, a common fungal disease. It's giving me different solutions of things that can be done about it. And so it's giving me all kinds of great advice. It's talking about air circulation, avoiding watering from above, applying fungicides, how you can make your own fungicide. removing affected leaves, choosing resistant varieties, crop rotation. Now I'm going to ask about this. Are there any pests unique to my area that I should know about? And what can I do to combat them? So it's giving me the list of pests and gardens in coastal North Carolina, starting with Japanese beetles. And yes, we do have definitely a problem with these. Oh my goodness gracious, y'all. Aphids, cutworms. So it's going to just go on and it's going to name different pests. So this is just another type of thing you can use ChatGPT for. Again, yes, you can do a search on Google. And then what happens? You get a dozen results at the top for all different blogs. You're not sure which one to go to. You go to one, you're hit with 15,000 ads right off the bat, and it takes you a long time to actually find what it is that you're looking for. And sometimes you're not even sure if it's correct. And these, and these things here, sometimes you just really want to get to the right answer right away. You don't want to have to filter through a lot of stuff. And something like ChatGPT can be fantastic for that. Let's see, some other types of topics that you can look into are there are so many different new skills you can learn using ChatGPT. So if I wanted to, all right, this is something I don't know a whole lot about. My son knows more about this than I do, but let's just say I wanted to learn something about woodworking. I'd like to learn something about woodworking. What would be some good projects to start with? I'm just picking this just off the top of my head. And it's going on to tell me about it being a fantastic hobby that yields practical and beautiful results. It's giving me suggestions for starting out with easy things like picture frames, birdhouses, shelves, bookends, making a plant stand, making a cutting board. And it's telling me the different skills that you use for each of these different types of projects that you might want to work on. And so, this is just one type of thing. If I wanted to, I could ask a question about how would I get started with gardening? I live in such and such an area, and then it would surely give me all kinds of instructions about how to get started with gardening. If I wanted to learn photography, if I wanted to learn how to take better pictures with my iPhone, if I wanted to, if you want to learn how to do anything, you can actually tell ChatGPT, I would like you to pretend to be an expert in this topic, and I want you to train me on how to do it. ChatGPT has passed bar exams, it's passed medical exams. It's not going to, turn you into a doctor. You can't treat all your health conditions with it. You can ask health questions, and it's going to give you all the disclaimers that I'm not a doctor, I'm not this and that. But it can be helpful if you did have any sort of medical questions you just wanted to ask about. I've definitely used ChatGPT to get some good stretching exercises, just because sometimes, especially if I've been sitting a lot at my computer during the day, and I'm noticing I'm having certain kinds of aches and pains, I'll ask for certain kinds of stretches to help with that, and it's great for that. In addition, homeschool families. I homeschooled my son all the way through school, from the time he started kindergarten until he graduated high school. He's in college now, he's doing great. But if I had had something like ChatGPT when he was coming up, I would have used ChatGPT to create worksheets. I would have used it to create lessons and quizzes and things like that. Not so much lessons, because I really did like to design his curriculum. And we were also in a homeschool program called Classical Conversations, which was great. But I would have still used ChatGPT to just help generate some fun exercises and some fun different kinds of lessons and activities and things that we could have done. For instance, if I wanted to, I could say, will you help me create a basic introductory worksheet for teaching Spanish to a young learner? I do speak conversational Spanish, but I'm not sure of what's my typing, y'all? I'm not sure of the best way to break things down to teach it. All right. Sure, I'd be happy to help you. We can start with some basic vocabulary, numbers, colors, common phrases, and greetings. So it's giving a Spanish introduction worksheet. Translate the following words into Spanish. Write your answers in the space provided. Numbers 1 through 10. It's the colors, and then common phrases. Translate the following phrases into Spanish. Obviously, this is super simplistic. It's getting ready to provide me all the answers so that it's my answer keys for all of these different things. But then you could continue and you could have it build on that and say, okay, well, what about the next lesson? What should the next lesson be? And then it's just going to give you more advanced questions and answers and things like that. Two more things that I wanted to mention that you can use for just really practical, easy, everyday things that anyone can enjoy is you can use ChatGPT for like if you're planning to take a trip somewhere and you want to get some ideas about great places to visit when you're on your trip, insider information and things like that, you could totally do it. So my son and I had actually planned to take a trip last fall to Memphis and New Orleans, but we weren't able to go. My dog got really sick and was in the hospital, and then my grandfather died right after that, so our trip got canceled. We were still hoping to make that trip, but let's say that I wanted to just get some insider info on great things to do in Memphis. I'll say I'm planning, let me get back in that little search box. We are planning to take a trip to Memphis and New Orleans in the fall of this year. I'm wondering what are some of the best secrets of these towns and places to visit, as well as stops along the way, both from the coast of NC as we drive out there and as we travel between places and home again. We already know about Sun Records, Graceland, and jazz and Sun Records, Graceland in Memphis, and jazz in New Orleans. All right, so I've given it like some really specific things. In other words, I'm saying, look, I already know about Graceland. I already know about Sun Records. We know about jazz in New Orleans, but can you give us some like hidden gems? And sure enough, it's giving me some hidden gems, some places to check out, as well as along the drive. So it's giving me first places in Memphis, Tennessee, the Stax Museum of American Soul, South Main Arts District, Shelby Farms Park, Broad Avenue Arts District. I don't know about any of these places, so I'll be interested in looking into them. The New Orleans District, it mentions Magazine Street, the Historic New Orleans Collection, Lafayette Cemetery, Bacchanal Wine. Let's see, driving from NC to Memphis, it's mentioning some different places. Driving from Memphis to New Orleans, it's mentioning some different places. Driving from New Orleans back to North Carolina, it's mentioning other towns that we might want to stop. So it's, and if I wanted to drill down deeper on any of these places, I could do that. And it won't get tired of me asking questions. I will tell you that with the paid version of ChatGPT, because it is so high powered, you're limited to 25 questions in a 3-hour period. And if you go beyond 25 questions, you can keep using ChatGPT, but you'll just be stuck using the like 3.5 version until you get back to your next batch of 3 hours. Another thing I'll tell you is it doesn't remember things you say in different conversations. So all these conversations I have over here on the left, it doesn't keep track of all the different conversations we've had. If I want to continue a conversation and get more information about something I've already discussed with ChatGPT, the best thing for me to do is to go back to the earlier conversation that I have had and just use that and just keep working from there. And then I can say, can you reference up earlier in this conversation about this and give me more information about it or whatever. So anyway, this is just a really broad overview of ChatGPT. what I'm hoping to show you is that this is nothing to be intimidated about, but it can be so helpful. It can tell you how to do so many things in so many ways. It can give you great information. I thought of another example. I want to share this one, budgeting. I think I'd like to figure out a way to set up a household budget. How would you suggest I do that? Also, I don't mind using something like Google Sheets. For those of you who don't know, Google Sheets is just a spreadsheet, kind of like Excel. But Google Sheets is free, which is why I'm mentioning that here. So I'm saying, I think I'd like to figure out a way to set up a household budget. How would you suggest I do that? Also, I don't mind using something like Google Sheets. See what it says. So then it's explaining to me what I can do. It's telling me about setting up a Google Sheets budget template. It's going to tell me how to personalize the template. And while it's typing all of this, I'm going to tell you what a lot of people are doing is they're actually using ChatGPT to give them business ideas. Some people will say, I'm interested in having an Etsy shop. I would like to sell digital content. Can you give me some ideas of the kinds of digital content I could sell? Or they might say, I'm interested in setting up a shop on eBay, but I'm not really sure what I should be selling. Can you give me some ideas about that? Or they might say, I'm interested in, it doesn't matter. Whatever kind of business that you might be interested in starting, you can ask ChatGPT and it will pretend as though it's your business coach and it'll take you through everything you need to know. I just can't say enough good things about it. So this gave some really specific, all right, this gave some really specific steps. I'm going to also tell it, can you tell me how to set up a spreadsheet specifically in Google Sheets to achieve what you suggest? And if it ever gives you advice you don't like, you can tell it, look, I don't like this. Can you go back and change this? Sometimes if I'm having it create content for me, and especially if I'm creating content that I'm going to use, let's say on a blog post for my website design business, sometimes I'll have it write blog posts for me to save time, but then I'll go back and I'll refine it and I'll say, can you go through and take out the slang and can you do this and that and everything? And it'll totally do that. I don't mind using ChatGPT to write articles about things like that because it's tech and I want to be specific. And sometimes it's not easy to keep up with all the technology. So I can actually use the browsing version to get the most up-to-date information for whatever instructions I'm giving. For instance, telling someone how to set up their Google My Business page or how to, do search engine optimization on a specific thing using a specific tool and things like that. But anyway, so this has given specific instructions on how to create a new Google Sheet, how to define the categories, what columns to type, what to type in what columns at the top of the page, how to set your months up, how to do everything, how to do your sums, how to do your totals, all of that kind of stuff. And you could just keep going from there. So again, I know that this is a broad overview. It's sort of a fire hose. I've given you a ton of information all at once, but I really want y'all to jump into this and I want you to try it out. I want everybody to be making use of this tool because it's going to make so many things in your life more efficient and easier, and you won't be wasting hours on Google trying to find answers for what you're looking for. YouTube is still phenomenal for the real people and like hearing from real people and opinion and people sharing their tips and things like that. But sometimes you just need an answer right now about something. And this is like one of the best ways to get it. So anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I would love to hear from you about it. Again, there are other options out there. There's Bard, which is Google's similar language learning model. It's free, but it's not as good as ChatGPT. And then there are ways of actually using ChatGPT and other things that you have. For instance, you can connect it to your Gmail. Again, I'm not giving ChatGPT access to my private information. I want to keep that boundary up. I don't want it in my business, right? But let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. If you're not already subscribed to my other channel, OTK Garden and Prep, be sure and subscribe to that one because I'm going to be talking about specific ways you can use ChatGPT in strategies related to gardening and preparedness and survival and things like that. One thing I do need to mention is how you get on ChatGPT. So I'm going to put a link in the description below to how to get on ChatGPT, but I can tell you real quick, if you don't want to go in the description, that's totally fine. You just go to chat.openai.com. You sign up there. You can use your Google account if you already have one. I think you can use your Microsoft account, which would be like Outlook or Hotmail if you already have one. And then you can also use other email addresses. And then you'll see a paid option for it as well. So look in the description below if you want to link there. I will also link to some other AI resources down below, and let me know if you have any questions because I'll be glad to tackle them. All right, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.